This session is on building images for your WordPress slider in Pixlr. We also have a tutorial on building the images for your WordPress slider in Photoshop. When we talk about the slider, we're talking about this large area at the top of your home page in your WordPress site. When I talk about the slider image, it's this image over here to the left. And this image is basically composed of two different images. The main image right here, and then this banner that runs across the bottom that has the read more, click here, and the arrow. The reason this is here in the first place is that end users will likely be trying to click the button to take them to where they need to go. And the button will not link to what the button is talking about or what the image is talking about. You need to click the image itself. In this case, when I click this, it takes us to our WordPress tutorials. So what we're going to learn today is how to build this image, both the image itself and the banner under it, using Pixlr. The first thing we need to do is download this banner so we can use it and apply it to our picture. So we're actually going to go to the video tutorials page, and we're going to move to WordPress, and assumedly you are here right now clicking this link right here to listen to this tutorial. What you need to do next is to click the Learn More arrow for Pixlr, which is the link right here. I'll click that. It asks me to save the file. So I'm now saving that file onto my computer. And here is the file that we just downloaded, Pixlr slider template.pxd. I pulled this from the downloads folder onto my desktop. Our next step is to go into Pixlr. So I'll open my browser, and I'll open another tab, and I'll pull up Pixlr. I'll click Open Image from my computer. I'll go to my desktop where we know that image is, and we'll search for it. It's right here, Pixlr slider template.pxd. So I will double click that to bring that into Pixlr. Notice there are three layers here. The Read More layer, when I click that off, the Read More, click here text disappears. The arrow bar, when I uncheck that, the arrow bar goes away. And then your background here, which currently does nothing. Our next step is to bring the image we want to use into Pixlr. A couple of notes about this. If we look in the lower left-hand corner, we can see that the size of this image is 950 by 370 pixels. That's also up here. So we need to remember that that's the size we want to work with when we are pulling our image beneath this banner or under this banner. And the other thing is that you want the focus of your image to be the center and the left side of the image, because this right part is going to be covered by the 5 buttons. So let's begin. So I'll go to File, I'll go to Open Image. Now here in my slider webinar folder already, and here's the picture I want to work with. So I double click that to bring the image into Pixlr. So now we have both of the components that we want to work with in Pixlr. We next need to do two things to this image. We need to crop it to the necessary aspect ratio. And when I say aspect ratio, I'm talking about the ratio of width to height, or 950 to 370. And then after we make the crop with that ratio, then we resize it so it is actually 950 pixels wide by 370 pixels high. So let's begin. I will go to my cropping button here, and under constraint it currently says no constriction. I'm going to change that to aspect ratio. My width I will put as 950, and my height I will put as 370. Now this isn't going to change the size of the image. All this is doing is giving us the ratio we're working with. So I'm going to drag my cursor just to get a sense of the rectangle I'm working with, and I'll move it down a bit, and I'll make it a little bit bigger. Realize a couple of things here. Remember, this third over here to the right is going to be covered by buttons, so you want your main focal area to be this area right here. I'm happy with this crop, so I'm going to double click inside it and crop my picture. Now I've cropped it, but it's still not the correct size. It's slightly bigger than we need. And we know that by looking down here and seeing that it's 987 pixels wide and 385 pixels high. So I'll go to Image, and Image Size. Constraint Proportions is by default already checked, so I'll simply change 987 to 950. Notice that our height goes to 371 pixels, which is close enough to 370 to be workable, and I'll click OK. So now we have our image cropped and we have our image sized. Our next step is to combine these two images. We'll do that using the Layers panel, which is right here, but I'm first going to use this lower right-hand corner to make the picture smaller so we can see both these at the same time. And before I combine them, let's look at the Layers panel on both of our images. With our photograph selected, we only have one layer, this background layer, and we can see from the thumbnail, it's simply this picture. If I click on the Pixlr slider template, we have these three layers we saw before, the Read More Text, the arrow bar, and the Your Background here. So all I need to do now is go back to my image, back to my photo. I'm going to take this layer, I'm just going to drag it onto my Pixlr slider template image and let go. Now a couple of things have happened here. We have our picture here and we have our text for Read More. Click here. We don't, however, have our bar that goes across the bottom part of the photo. And the reason is simply in the order we have our layers here. We have Read More, then we have our background copy, and then we have our arrow bar. And the background copy is now above or in front of the arrow bar. So I can simply take the arrow bar and drag it above the background copy, and now we have our image. So we've now combined our two images, we've cropped them correctly, and we've made the size correct. Our last step is to save the image for the web. You want to make sure you have the correct one selected before you save it. We want to select Pixlr slider template, though we will rename this when we save it. We're going to go to File, going to go to Save. Now we don't want to save it as a PXD. We want to instead save it as a JPEG. JPEG is the format good for virtually every photo you're going to be working with on the web. We'll call this slider image 2, and we'll move the quality down. Notice that the size is going to go down as I move the quality down. And we're doing this so as not to make the download time too large for the end user. At 25 quality, we have a size of 35 KB, which is probably okay. We have my computer selected, so we click OK. It is still named Slider Image 2 JPEG. We'll choose Desktop, and we'll click Save. Image is saved, so I'll minimize my browser, and our image is right here. We have our picture, and we have our banner. Our next step is to put this into the slider in WordPress, and that is covered in another tutorial on the WordPress tutorial page.